pretty sure they call blackface.
Oh wait, I think you're gonna get a very angry email from Fender soon. Don't say we do blackface!
Cynation TV.
Oh yeah!
Hi guys, welcome to the Evolution of Creation. Please, before we start anything, do us a favor, like and subscribe to the channel and please share it. We are still very small in the big picture of things and only you can help us break through YouTube's algorithms because they don't like us for some reason. Hello and welcome back to yet another episode of the Evolution of Creation. I can't believe we did it.
It's our special 10 episode anniversary.
10 episodes, we finally made it to number 10. We didn't think we'd keep it this consistent.
Oh hell no, we're fucking terrible at that kind of
But
shit.
we did it! So, episode 10, what's special is everything we've talked about, songwriting, composing, guitar, samples, all that sort of thing, all comes together in our project called Night Gaunt's.
In a real nice culmination, we've got everything in a nice big cocktail.
A giant amalgam of musical creativity.
Amalgam? Yeah. I didn't even think that was English.
Because you're Scottish.
That is the true English.
Oh well.
Well, anyway, we're gonna have a special two-part to break it up to show you the musical instrumental side of it, which is gonna be today's episode, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna do
scoring.
Orchestral. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Night Gaunt's and how it started is I first felt I've never written like a proper like evil sounding black metal-y song.
That's a good question actually. I wanted to prod your brain because, you know, why did you do it and what was your influence?
I mean, I'm a huge fan of you know, guys like Dimmu Borgir, Cradle of Filth, to a certain extent even Behemoth.
Behemoth?
Yeah.
Alright.
And of course, I mean, there's all the other, you know, your old school black metal, Dark Funeral, freaking Immortal.
So particularly, there's a real like European black metal kind of sound.
Oh, black metal has to be European.
Why?
Well, it's just the origins. It's real black metal is Norwegian, right?
Oh, aye.
Yeah.
Gaelic.
Gaelic.
Well, I don't know, like.
Norwegian's not Gaelic.
I mean, no, you know, like in that
Scandinavian,
northern region, you know, when it gets cold.
It's much further north than that accent.
Alright, oh yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, I do like a lot of those black metal bands, and I like them, but it's something that's kind of too heavy and too specialized for what I do with Cynation. So I thought, you know what the hell, let me just for once write something that's really heavy, and I decided to call it Night Gaunt's, based off one of the short stories by one of the greatest horror writers of all time, H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh, aye.
So let's just have a listen how it goes. I just basically picked, you can't get more evil than using the Unholy Trinity of notes.
Can you give us a little demonstration? What is the Unholy Trinity of notes? That's like you're ready to summon Satan himself.
And I mean, Black Sabbath famously was the first one to write an entire song of just...
Is that in that song Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath?
Yeah. And they basically just took the three most unholy notes. I mean, there's a whole history to that as well, and how back in like in the Middle Ages, these three notes were kind of called like, you know, it's like Satan's triad, and you were forbidden from playing it.
Do you know anything more to dive in? That's kind of interesting.
I don't know precisely, but for some reason, I forget the name. The Devil's Tritone, I think it's called.
Oh, wait.
Which is just E, B, and B flat.
E, B, and B flat.
And I don't know, maybe they felt like if you played this, you would summon Beelzebub himself.
Which sounds pretty awesome because he'd be great at gigs.
Well, I decided to work around this a little bit, and I came up with this.
Alright.
So I'll put in an F note there as well for a bit of variation, so, you know, the devil's getting a bit more creative.
I mean, the devil's got to move with the times, you know. I mean, it's 2020 and all. The devil, needs to get his way into politics and censorship takes a new form.
Well, there we go. So that's the basic structure of the song. I'll just play a bit of the beginning. So what I have here, let me just solo out these
Just
two
before
tracks
you
for
do that, I'm actually going to turn the aircon off because it's getting a wee bit noisy.
Yeah, don't interrupt, Satan. So what we've got here, and apart from the little sweep picking lick which I have later on, everything is done with GarageBand preset plugins, which I know to a lot of professionals, you're like, oh my god, he's using GarageBand, what a noob.
It's not because he's in there, it's because he's poor.
Yeah, but also like these sound great. So what we have here, two of their clean sounds, the multi-phase face and Surfing in Stereo, which is off Fender Blackface, and I think this
Did you just say Fender Blackface?
Yeah.
Well, that's the name. Fender, you're not allowed to do that one anymore.
Yeah, so I think that's a tweed and that's a Fender, I'm pretty sure they're called Blackface.
Oh wait, I think you're gonna get a very angry email from Fender soon. Don't say we do blackface!
Well, we got Fender Blackface and Fender Brownface, alright? Right here. So they're just playing this lick. Let's just hear. I've got the guitars panned right and left, so the browns go to the right and the blacks go to the left.
Or segregate them.
Yep. One of them's got a bit of modulation on them and one's got like a phaser and the other's got a bit of, slight bit of chorus, I'll say.
It's great already. That creates a real ominous tone because I think though that devil's tritone is already so inherently evil.
Technically, just not to piss off Satan and get copyright issues, this isn't exactly his tritone, it's just inspired by it.
It's an adaptation of it.
Yeah, because I'm not actually going to the B flat at this stage, I'm using an F.
Oh.
Yeah, we get to the B flat later on.
It's very heavenly of you.
Yeah, so to that, we've got a bit of bass. That's plugged into, I don't know what this amp is meant to be.
There is a bit of
modern high stack.
I don't know whether it's intentional, but there's a little bit of this wobble that happens underneath that creates a bit of an unsettling feeling.
Well, that's the thing, like, because I'm actually playing it on a real instrument, as I lift my finger off the string, you get
that tension, the tension slowly.
Yeah, you get that at the end when you hear I lift off, right? So I'm fretting here.
Yeah, just there, that sort of like, whoa.
Yeah, and like if you just used a pure sample, you're not gonna get that.
You can't create it,
Yeah, and it sounds great, right? Like, especially once we pair that up with the two guitars.
Very, very like impending doom.
Well, I did get a bit lazy and I used the drum loop.
Typical guitarist getting lazy with the drums.
It's because I don't have my drums yet.
Aye, when we do, these are gonna take a hell of a lot longer.
But they've got some great sounds, and for a project like this, I just need something droning on, so we've got, and it's called Heavy. So it must be right. It's just a real droning tribal sort of. Tribal, what do you say, yeah? So let's have a listen. Tribal. When you get that and the guitars together, we have our opening to Night Gaunt's.
It's actually interesting when you hear the drum track on its own because having heard this several times, the drums don't really sound tribal until you hear them isolated.
Yep.
It actually comes together like it does have that really insidious metal element to it.
Well, when I wrote this, I think I already did, apart from wanting to make a black metal thing, a lot of the thing about black metal is theatrics. And I did have in my mind that we would want to do some sort of video thing. So your drums here already create the tension and the emotion.
It's very atmospheric.
Yeah, because I mean the guitars alone, while beautiful, they don't really give you a lot to think with, right? You just...
See, that's interesting as well, because when I think black metal, or generally like really heavy metal, I think double pedal. I think, you know, like your head's gonna burst out like you have taken ecstasy at a concert.
If I want to be more specific, like the black metal that I like is what they call symphonic black metal.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, so there's a lot of atmospheric synthesizers and clean guitar lines.
Orchestral elements, choirs.
And you know, I always find, like, people ask me what kind of music I like, right? And it doesn't really matter to me the genre, but it has to evoke some kind of feeling in you, whether it's sadness, anger, joy, or fear, which is what black metal does. If you can make someone feel frightened just with a few notes and the sounds, I think you've done a good job.
That's the beauty of the devil tritones, because it's something so simple, yet it made people fear it because of the devil and Satan. And I want to add one more thing to that, you know, it's even the feeling of sensualness, like Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On. That's a powerful song.
Sure.
It evokes in the loins. It really gets me in the mood.
Alright, mate. Let's move on. So,
don't be so negative.
Moving on from this thing, it's where the distortion kicks in.
Actually, before the distortion, do you want to talk about that little synth backing that just came in there?
I totally forgot I did that. Where is it?
Yeah,
Here it is.
Yeah, dos bastard.
Oh, okay, so it wouldn't be symphonic black metal if we didn't have some strings.
Or strings. You know, if Dimmu Borgir didn't come to mind straight away, then I'd say you're an uncultured swine.
Okay, so I forgot about the strings. We'll get back to the strings. So for this song, this was before I got Spitfire. So I'm using songs straight out of this called TR Music Workstation. Some of them they're less realistic sounding, but to me, like, these strings sound very cinematic, you know?
I think it's contextual as well, because it depends what you're trying to emulate, because some of these bands, they're not just trying to get realistic sounding instruments. This is a sound I'd associate, like I said, immediately with Dimmu. Or it's like, we've had this conversation before about how the keyboardist Jordan Rudess,
yes,
that is correct, from Dream Theater, his keyboard sounds, when he plays strings, it's not trying to emulate an orchestra, it's meant to sound artificial.
Well, I think with this song, you know, being black metal and all that, I was probably taking more inspiration from the ex-Dimmu Borgir keyboardist called Mustis, I believe.
Mustis?
Yeah. He was the one that scored the entire arrangement for Death Cult Armageddon's album.
Fucking beautiful.
So, like, let's have a listen how the strings come in to create this atmosphere. Interesting is that while the guitars over here, we are playing this, right? The strings, on the other hand, are playing your E minor chord, and then part of your devil's tritone, the B flat.
But obviously, they're playing it more at that really high register.
Yeah, so you combine my guitars, but together with the strings taking the devil's tritone.
Aye. And obviously with that specific type of European black metal synthy sound.
Yep. And the synths come back later on in the later part where they start to get a bit more frantic, I guess.
two things that come to mind there. One is that Cradle of Filth. They've got a very explicit horror element to their music, and the other one, it's really throwing back to like that Alfred Hitchcock Psycho kind of you know, really building up. What do you call it? Syncopated beats, building up. I used that word correctly.
When I did this project, I didn't label things as well as I should have, so let me just have...
You didn't label them at all! It
Yeah.
just says Untitled,
Like,
you bastard!
what the hell is audio 6, yeah? So I'm pretty sure these are strings too. Let's just have a listen. So this is kind of like an ensemble strings, a much larger ensemble than you have on Audio 7, which they're doing the same Devil's Tritone, but it's got a bigger sound to it.
I think this one compared to the other one's like a higher, more piercing register. This one's a bit lower and
And if you come over here, they start playing a bit different. And we bring in the other one.
I feel like if we keep this up, we need to start hanging the upside down crucifix on the back there.
So any hardcore Cradle of Filth fans will notice I've kind of taken very strong inspiration from their track From Cradle to Enslave.
Alright.
It's got an opening that's very similar to that sort of sound, and to create the haunting thing, apart from the string ensemble, we're also bringing in some choir.
Of course you would,
Yeah.
for that extra cinematic
Yeah.
European element too.
I mean,
that
getting
symphonic.
like, you know, 30, 40 people together to sing the Devil's Tritone.
That's how you summon him, it's the power of the masses.
Right, so let's move on. We're gonna play it from here. This is where the distortion comes in, because it's not... We've got the black part, we don't have the metal part.
Yeah, you got the blackface part alright. Now, I definitely want you to do a demo of that, because the very first time I heard that sound, it almost damn nearly made my ears bleed. What's the deal with that effect?
Okay, so there's several things going on here. I know that you don't even recognize it as guitar initially.
I mean, I kind of do, just in terms of what I know the guitar is capable of, but I just don't know, I didn't know how you got that sound.
So it's actually three different amps. So you've got this one, Big Hair Harmonics and Modern British Metal. So it's basically a very, very high gain amp, so high gain and loud to the point it's almost unusable.
Alright.
And it's feedbacking really strong. Like, let me just turn it on. If you can.
I see. So it's picking up on the sounds that are so subtle that you generally wouldn't get.
The problem is, like, it's so unplayable in a way because it was really hard for me to get this right and clean because there's so much feedback that every movement on even non-movement I make, as you can hear, so much comes in. So it took me ages to record this. But what you end up with, doing these little tap tap taps and, you know, sliding, we're just manipulating the feedback. It's got things like phasers, echoes, like a truck ton of effects on it. You get this.
It's great because, you know, there are so many elements to the guitar that can be seen as a limitation. But if you kind of flip the way you approach it and how you think about it, they open up avenues to, in terms of, we talk about cinematic sound.
Well, I think the late great Eddie Van Halen, you know, he was someone who really used things like flangers and delays, feedback, reverb, probably the first one to really use them in a creative musical way. And likewise, you know, in this case when we're scoring for film, I wanted to take the guitar and not just use it in a melodic way, but also to explore, like, you know, the effects and all that. What can we do to create these ambient sounds? And in this case, our goal was to create something really, what's the word, like discordant, and
make it uncomfortable.
Exactly.
And that's what I love about it as well, because I like it when people use instruments or different sounds and turn it into something that doesn't sound like the original. Because then, like you said, that discordance, and I think it adds to the horror element when you can't quite place the source of that sound or how it's created. Suddenly you feel it's unknown, and that makes it scary.
I'll make a quick note about how to get some of these sounds here. I learned this from Paul Gilbert. And when you do pick scrapes, here's what a pick scrape is. I'll put a cleaner, heavy sound for you first. That's a pick scrape.
Alright.
You want to get a fairly thin pick, alright? Because if you get a pick that is too thick, it's not going to catch the grooves of your wound strings. You hear that?
I see.
So if I had a thicker pick, like I've got here, you'll hear that it doesn't sound the same. It's a bit too smooth, but the thinner pick really gets into grooves.
Funnily enough, when you say smooth, the thinner pick creates a more a consistent flow of sound, whereas the thicker one seems to get caught more, and it's a bit, you know, disruptive.
So there's the two techniques to create this sound. First of all, you need an incredibly high gain amp with, you know, like basically turn all your gain all the way to 10, put on another distortion pedal, turn it to 10, you know, to the point where your feedback is so intense, it's already screaming when you're not even touching it. It's crazy needle. You see that? So you have to mute your strings and be very gentle. And there's two things we're doing. One is a pick scrape, and one is, I'll call it a pick tap.
Alright. You combine the two.
So it's tip, 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 tip. Like, you know, imagine you're dropping like a ping pong ball. You see, you know the way it bounces? It goes tuck, 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 tuck.
Alright, it gets a little bit quicker as the...
Yeah, so I'm basically mimicking that with... with the slide at the end. So that's the first one. And the second one, we're doing a pick scrape up on the low strings. See, I can do that on the... When I do a slide on the high strings, because they're not wound strings, you get this very smooth...
Hey.
Yeah, whereas on the low strings, and we're going that way this time, we go...
There is definitely something about that scratchiness that's like, you know that sound when something scrapes and it makes that high pitch, really like sound? It makes your ears bleed, and I find that it almost evokes something in your stomach. It makes you kind of sick down to your stomach.
Well, and that ping pong ball tappy thing, I feel like it's got a real ominous, you know, tick, 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 tick. It's kind of disturbing.
Well, because it builds. You know, it kind of starts slow and starts building up slowly in speed.
Speeds up and it ends with that whoop.
Which again, it keeps building the suspense.
Yeah, so these are just little guitar tricks, how to use the guitar to create atmospheric, orchestral, not orchestral, like soundtrack like music.
Atmospheric. Think outside the box. Get out of the box. Break free of the system. Don't be a sheep. So what was that? Was that just like a harmonic?
That's just a harmonic off the 5th fret on the G string.
Imagine Eddie Van Halen playing something like that, except the tones and the notes that you're using.
What we're doing is we're running it in through first a Friedman DEOD pedal, and then into a Boss digital delay DD8.
It's thrash metal, not trash metal.
We're running low on time.
And battery.
So very quickly, guys, please support us. I'm begging you. Buy one of these.
Buy a fucking t-shirt, you cunt.
Cynation muscle tee. You can see him here with the beautiful ladies wearing them.
Here, maybe here.
Order it directly, messaging us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We don't do Twitter.
Nah, I use Twitter for other things.
Alright. So,
Till the part 2.
that's right.
Yeah.
Moving on.